Good morning / good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Azure Security Center. So that is how you protect your cloud workloads, your on-prem workloads, gives you visibility into vulnerabilities, compliance. And today with me, I have Jhonny Paulino, one of our Azure Security CSAs, Cloud Solution Architect, to demo Azure Security Center. Please put your questions in the chat and I will answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jhonny Paulino. I will be sharing out. Sharing out my the, with two particular labs that I'm running, and one I'm just doing a read only to show the integration with other components, and the others are going to be able to see more the configuration aspect. As Ashley stated, Azure Security Center is a way that we provide is our products that provide protection to your cloud infrastructure, but also not only on the Azure platform, but also across your cross workload. It helps you build that security posture throughout your environment. It provides you a way for you to set up compliance policy and a way for you to also maintain a constant security standard. The first thing that you're going to notice is, hopefully you guys can be able to see my screen. The first thing that you're going to notice is we bring the same concept that we have on the M365 side with Azure with a secure score. A secure score is a way for us to bring you visibility on how you can protect, on how well you're doing against a particular set of benchmark that we have. Initially, the default security policy that we have is called Azure Benchmark, and that is a compilation of different security standards initiative that we have inside Azure that we bring into that can be applied to your subscription or your resources. As you can see, for the most part, some of the recommendations or controls that we have is how you can enable these different policies in your resources. One of the things that you notice here is it goes not only to the way to protect a particular server or a particular application, but it also expands to your past services. When you're dealing with any particular recommendation, some of them have the capability of allowing you to be exempt from the policy, or it also tells you what is the resource that is available. Oh, let me show you the other part. What is the resource that is affected? And it gives you the capability of, let me show one that it will show you more in particular. There we go. It gives you the capability of either extend the policy, use the policy. You can extend for the policy, or you can enforce the policy into the particular resource. And also it has, some of them also brings what we call a quick fix. A quick fix is the ability for you to just fix the particular remediation with one simple click. Now, in case you say, well, I really want to know what are you going to be doing to the resource before you apply to that fix, we provide you what we call a quick fix logic. It tells you in Azure policy what is going to be that remediation that we want to apply. It gives you the opportunity for you to review it before you continue on or before you execute it. Another thing that people bring into the attention is, okay, if this particular policy or this particular set of benchmark, do you have any other regulatory compliance that can be applied to the environment? So one of the things that Azure Security Center does is allows you, we build a set of regulatory compliance that can be applied to your environment, and you have the capability of using that for either any type of audition that you have or any type of regulatory compliance that you need to present. In here, you can see really simple that the default is the Azure Security Benchmark as we stated, but we also have others. So let me show you how simple is to add one. I'm going to switch really quick to a demo that I have more permissions. I'm going to show you really quick how it's easy to add another regulatory compliance into the environment, or you have the capability also of develop yourself the one. You go into security regulatory compliance, manage policy, compliance policy, select the particular subscription that you have, and then we have some built-in standards. For example, FedRAMP medium or moderated. You can also have FedRAMP high, NIST 100, NIST SP 800, and as simple as adding it to the environment and selecting the particular subscription, create. And when you select create, it will take a good hour, 2 hours, and then you're going to have the capability of going back into your security compliance and see how well your resources are doing against a particular regulatory compliance. The same way, if you are familiar with how Azure policy works, you can come in here and develop your own policy, and that will give you the ability to build that security framework that will be available not only when you bring resources into Azure, but also when you get your on-prem resources and your other and the other components into it. Outside for regulatory compliance, we also have another component of Azure Security Center, which is Azure Defender. In Azure Defender, we bring that extra layer of protection against not only the the servers, but also the past services and all of that. This in particular, it's enabled at the subscription level, but you can select the particular resources that you want to be used for. The way that you enable that is by going to pricing and settings, selecting the subscription, and then you're going to select Azure Defender on. When you select Azure Defender on the subscription level, you have the capability of enabling per the resources that you want it to be protected. You have the capability of turn it off, turn it back on, or enable it at a particular resource only. Now, one of the things that is good about the Azure Defender is that you can extend that capability not only to your Azure resources, but also to your on-prem servers via Azure Arc. I will really quick demonstrate how you can add those resources, and also you can also add those other cloud providers. For example, my subscription right here, if you have a AWS account, you can easily enable your AWS connection, and those resources that you have enabled in there will have the same visibility and will bring that visibility into Azure Security Center, the same as GCP. Let me show you briefly how they will look like when they get those cloud connectors enabled. Hopefully it will show. We can also show it by the inventory. Let me quick. So if I go by inventory and I go by environments, it's equal AWS. As you can see in here, all those resources running in AWS are being monitored or are being able to be assessed against your security posture from Azure Security Center. The same for Azure Arc servers. So if we go here and we stated, okay, all the stuff. Monitor agent. Now, how do you enable and how do you bring those resources, or how do you enable this functionality? The way that it works is this is done through the agent, monitoring agent that we can deploy in from the particular settings. So let me show you really briefly. When you go into price and settings, you select and you can auto provisioning. When you auto provisioning, you have to deploy the particular extension and the agent so that they can have visibility into it. One of the things that you have to keep in mind for servers that are using Azure Arc, you have to deploy the guest configuration agent with that in order for you to be able to use those particular resources. The way that you enable and then you dictate where they're going to go, you have to really quick set up the workspace when you want it to be those agents communicating. By default, when you enable Security Center, it will create their own default workspace, but you can select a particular workspace that you want it to be. If you are doing any type of security event collection, you can determine if you want it to be what level of collection you want those to be. So enabling, you can also have what we call email integration for those particular owners. And you can also integrate with our other products. One way that one tight integration that we have is Azure with Azure Sentinel, where the security alerts that are going to be showing in a few minutes are synchronized in two ways with Azure Sentinel, or you can take any action in the Sentinel space, or you can take any action inside Azure Security Center. Another thing that you get when you enable Azure Defender is, let's review the security alerts that we have. When you enable your Azure Defender, it has the capability of informing you and protecting you against the different attacks that are out there. One way or one of the things really quick, it tells you not only the affected resource, what type of metric attack tactic is using it, and if you can take any type of action around that. The type of action that you can take, it's more around telling you in a way how you can protect it against that particular one, and it gives you the ability to build what we call automation around. I'm going to touch briefly in a few more minutes what type of automations you can use in here. But Azure Security Center not only tells you what type of attacks you're receiving, and also give you the ability for you to react to those or protect against those, and also provide a way to do a workflow automation. One of the things that Azure Security Center is really good at, it's giving you the ability to provide that reporting, that capability of being on top of what's going on around the environment. We use workbooks as a way to present or project or present information out of the environment. We have a set of build workbooks, but those also can be modified for you, or you can build your own with a couple of KQL queries. One of the ways that we use, or one of the most used one, is the secure score over time. It's where you have the capability of tracking how your subscription is doing in doing that particular set of remediations or doing that particular set of environment. So in here, you can see the overall score in the last 30 days is being, my small lab is being dragging down. That means that either the overall score is being falling down. That means that in a way, either are getting new resources into the environment, or there are new vulnerabilities or new issues that are being coming up that I need to pay more close attention. Another thing that it tells you really quick out of the bat is how are you being measured against the different recommendation over time. Also, it has been the more resources that needs to have attention, the recommendation that needs to have more attention over time. Also, another workbooks that we have that is built in, it's the compliance over time. This gives you the ability to select how are you doing against those regulatory compliance that you saw me adding at the beginning, and how this is one of those that can be used, although my environment doesn't use more about around the Azure Security Benchmark. But if you, let's say that you have several resources that it needs to be that are running either in Azure or on-prem, and you needed to show any type of auditing or any type of management, how are those running? You can set this in, and then it gives you the ability to do a trending and present that to management on how your environment's been going on throughout throughout your implementation. We also have provide you, when you do the extension and get the agents running, we also provide you the ability to do a quick inventorying of the different applications that are running in the environment, and give you the ability for you to determine how, if any of those particular applications, although my environment, okay, okay, it's more the YouTube, Ubuntu, so it gives you, so you can react and determine how those are doing in that sense. Another cool integration that we have is with Firewall Manager. It gives you the ability to have visibility inside your network environment and how those are running. And you can use Azure Defender around to set up that particular aspect. Excuse me. Let me show you briefly now. Is there any questions so far? Okay, let's continue on. Let me show you briefly some of the key features of Azure Defender. One of those is we have Azure Defender for servers. In Azure Defender for servers, we have what we call the advanced protection. We have 4 particular categories that it's definitely good to highlight. The first one is just-in-time VM access. This gives you the ability to protect the RDP port for those particular machines, and only give you access and give you a way for you to track when your admins or your IT personnel is getting access into the system. They will have to request access for a particular determined period of time, and this will be tracking it. This is done through NSG or Network Security Group, and you can protect your environment that way. Another of those features is what we call the adapted application control. In here, what we do is we inventory and we start learning what type of applications are running inside your VMs, what are the most programs that you're running, and creating a whitelist that will allow those applications to run without any interruption. Any other type of applications that try to run outside the list that we haven't learned, it will trigger an alert, and it will give you the ability to protect against that, react against that. Another one is what we call adaptive network hardening. Adaptive network hardening is, as stated, we learn from your VMs, or we learn from your environment to determine what are the most common connections made against those particular resources, and give you the ability to protect them. So when we enable this, for example, I enable in one of my Windows machine, if any of the resources that my machine is not used to connect, it will trigger an alert, and it will allow me to say, hey, there is an intrusion or something is going on trying to get into the system. And we also give you the ability to do file integrity monitor or FIM, where we select a set of files. So you can select a set of files, and those are protected against any type of override. This it's enabled, as stated before, through your VMs, either if they are running in Azure or can also be integrated when they are running on-premise. But for the integration with on-premise, you need to make sure that you're running to run the environment using Azure Arc. One neat features that we have is the network mapping, where we can have the capability of laying out. Oh, let me make sure I select the resources. Topology. Oh, it's missing. Oh, oh, don't allow. The network mapping will give you the ability to view all the connections that you have. Let me make sure that I can bring the other one on my other lab. Azure Defender. It gives you the ability to determine how each of your VNets and NSG are configured and what type of connection is with all the different machines. If you can see here, this tells you, hey, you need to be able to protect this, you need to be able to protect it, and give you an overall view on how that network connectivity is going around. Briefly, we mentioned how automation. One of the neat thing about Azure Security Center is you have the capability of creating automation via Logic app, where you can select a particular set of automation and you can select any type of action that you want it to be triggered. For example, any type of recommendations that comes along, any type of alert, send me an email or create a particular or open a ticket with ServiceNow, for example, or uh, or any other, or send me a team channel email. So, and there is also the ability for you using Logic App to create reaction mode or a particular remediation, as long as you can build those together. You can select or you can build those in Logic App and then link the particular automation to your environment. Now, here is where you have the capability of adding those particular known VM or known or servers running into the or servers that are running on-prem. And this gives you the capability of sending those alerts to your particular SIM outside Security Center. In general, a quick and in general, the overall aspect of Azure Security Center is give you the ability to build or create a secure score or create a framework for you to protect your resources, either when they are running on-prem, on other clouds, in multi-cloud, or when they're running in Azure, and give you the ability to right away to use what our Azure Security Benchmark to score your environment against that part. You can also bring other regulatory compliance settings, as we said before, and that it help you be in compliance with a particular regulatory compliance or a particular set of initiatives that you have to create. Now, if you are familiar with Azure policy, you have the capability of building yourself your Azure policy that can be running against that particular environment. And when you enable Azure Defender have the capability of protecting servers, SQL or Azure SQL, Azure SQL servers, and any other past services running in SQL. Another great use is for storage. It helps you to protect your storage. You also can protect all your containers or Kubernetes We also have the ability to protect most of our PaaS services, app services, Key Vault, and Azure DNS. This one is only for Azure DNS at the moment. We also have the capability of running Qualys vulnerability assessment against those resources, or you can also integrate it, as I showed before, with Microsoft Defender for servers or Microsoft Defender for endpoint. When the configuration in that aspect is done in this particular settings, when you're enabling, let me go to my subscription really quick. When you're enabling the vulnerability assessment, you have to select which agent or which one are you going to use. This was done right here. And you need to enable, if you want it to be using Qualys, which is built into Azure Security Center, or if you have the threat protection or vulnerability managed from Microsoft Threat Defender, from Microsoft Defender. Now, for Qualys, you don't need any extra licenses for that because this is built into the environment. And we also have the capability of you bringing your own licenses or your own key into the environment. Now, in the vulnerability assessment, another aspect that this also complement is the way for you to keep track or keep up with your system update of your missing patches or updated. With a simple click, let me show in the other environment, you can see what system is missing the updates and what system needs to be patched and how far you are into that. Okay. And in here, it will show you how healthy they are, who's missing what, and it provides you that visibility into the environment. Now, overall, as I said before, you have the recommendation aspect that we use from the Azure Security Benchmark, but you can bring your own regulation. You have, once you enable Azure Defender, you have the ability to receive alerts and to receive to protect against the different threats. And you also have the ability to use automation against those particular alerts. You can take any actions directly from here, or you can also create an automated response, or you can also enable that to open a particular ticket or bring a full investigation into the environment. And as I stated before, this can be correlated, okay, this can be sent into as a bidirectional synchronization into Azure Sentinel, or also can be sent it out to your own SIEM. You don't need necessarily to in case you work or in case you do your work from a particular SIEM, you can have the ability to get those alerts into the SIEM. We provide that capability. And last but not least is we provide you or give you the ability to use workbooks where you can customize this workbook or build your own in a way for you to do protection, in the way for you to do presentation around and give you the ability to track how things are going. Overall, this is a quick environment, or this is a quick tour of what Azure Security Center works and how it does work. And in case you have any particular question or any particular topic that you want me to work on, let me see the chat. Okay. One of the questions is this can be integrated into Tenable Security Center. At the moment, not out of the box. I will have to find out, and there's a question in the chat if they can be integrated with Tenable. At the moment, no. I can find out for you if there is anything on the roadmap for that aspect, but can be used with. I assume you're referring to the vulnerability portion. Right now, we support out of the box the Qualys one, but if your Tenable Security Center support or provides any API capability or can get the events from Event Hub, there is a way that we can send those particular alerts in there. Any other question from the team?
So there is another question about, can this be used to replace Tenable? So the way I look at it is, I don't know what all you're scanning in Tenable, but you could pare down the number of IPs you need to purchase, because you'll be scanning your servers, your whatever you have in Azure Defender. So think of it that way. And the other thing you could do is, there's a new integration now where it's not just the Qualys agent, but you could also flip a switch to use the built-in Microsoft Defender for endpoint threat and vulnerability management. So there's two options, and I just want to make sure that's super clear.
Yes, and let me show you really quick. And this is simple, as I stated before, a simple click here. You go into your environment. Let me use my, apologies, my tenant settings. In auto provisioning, you just need to select Microsoft Threat and Vulnerability Assessment and apply to that. Now from this point forward, all your agents, everything will be reporting in here, and you can use that from that. Will report that. Another way that I see too, not necessarily reporting, but if you pay attention in one of the recommendations, or the way that recommendation works, right, is that let's state it that you wanted, there are some recommendations that if you, let me go to this one, auditing and logging. This in particular, right? If I wanted to make sure that I enforce this particular settings, and you can build your own set of policies from Azure policy, but if you enforce something in a resource, and that resource is going to be created in Azure, and you're enforcing it, it will make sure that as soon as that resource is come on board, it has that particular settings in there. Now, you can also, in some instances, not all of them, you can also have the capability of denying the resource if it does not comply with your environment, with that particular settings that you want, or in security initiative. So it has the flexibility for you to create the framework to have a more secure environment as you bring along your resources into Azure. That's basically how you can use this as a whole. And briefly, let me show you also how easy it is to build any type of automation around the environment. Logic apps. In Logic apps, for example, you can let me take this one. So this one is simple. I wanted to be able to get an email every time I get an alert against my resources. And let me, hopefully my email inbox is come along. And you can set up, as you can see here, this is similar to the, you can customize this, but this is similar to the environment, the type of emailing system that you can receive when something along the line is being generated. You can also have the capability of, instead of having you to send an email, you can get a connector to ServiceNow, to any other ticketing system, and create a ticket. Or with more ways, like for example, if you're using tagging and you tag the owner of the resource inside Azure, you can send an email to the Azure, to the owner himself, on how, on ways for him to remediate, or ways for him to work on that. ServiceNow. It takes a little time to get a standard. Oh, yeah, it have different integration with any other of those, but you can build it. As I said before, you can create anything that support API call or HTTP call. You can build your own. This can also be accommodated to create what we call action or remediation against a particular type of. If you know that when, for example, one of the recommendation is to build uh, to deploy an agent or to deploy something, you can create that automation behind the scene that will allow you to deploy those particular resources against that part. And one part that I wanted to make sure that that I highlight is on the continuous export. This gives you the ability for you to do that trending over time or how your environment is doing. Those workbooks that are showing here, it's possible due to the ability for you to enable continuous export and for you to give you the ability to have that particular data set outside the environment. Any questions? Any other questions? I guess I went too fast today. Oh, issues in there. We also have a couple of, now another good resource also is the GitHub for this particular for Azure Security Center, where we provide uh, remediation scripts, how to build policy, how to build a different remediation policy, and also the workbook automation. This is something that uh, you can reuse and use, and ability for you to build any type of dashboard around. This is a great resource to have. And we also have a Ninja series training on how to, I find a mistake, it's AKA the MS. Yeah.
You have another question in the chat. It says for on-prem Windows servers with the Defender for Endpoint Server subscription and the Azure Arc agent, what functionality do we get out of the console for on-prem servers?
For on-prem servers, if you using the only for on-prem servers, the only thing that you won't have in the for the on-prem servers from protecting the servers in Azure Defender is the just-in-time administration for the VM access and the adaptive network hardening. But you can use the file integration. You can use the file integration aspect. You can use the vulnerability assessment aspect. And more importantly is that it gives you the ability, it will also have the ability to tell you how those servers are. Let me make sure that I have inventory. It will tell you how those servers are running against. Let me use the other demo. It will tell you how those servers are running against the particular security. It will scan it against the particular security too. So you have that security benchmark against those servers because they are using Arc agent, but you won't get the just-in-time access and the network hardening in there. Let me make sure that I can get our server here. Let me some of this resource type. Let me see if I find it. Let me quick. Agent, monitoring agent. No, that's not it. Environment. Is it Azure? Okay. Down in Azure. Source type out filter. Can probably get it through Azure Arc really quick. Yeah, but you will have the capability of seeing the resource in here, and then have the ability for you to do to see the same scoring, the same scanning against your security resources. But you won't get just-in-time PM access, because that needs the NSG and the network trafficking part. You can also get the FIM, the File Integration Monitor.
And I just posted in the link all of the additional benefits / features. It's probably easiest to read the docs.
Yep. Yep.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, topic that you want to see or you want to cover? Okay. Well, let's give it a few more minutes in case there is anything else that you want to see, to cover. Okay. I guess that if there are any other questions for the end, and we're going to be here a few more minutes in case something pop up, but you can reach out to Ashley Campbell in case you wanted to continue on and have the ability to do a quick POC about Azure Defender and Azure Security Center. And one of the good aspect is at least the secure score you can go on right now, even if you have a few resources in Azure. But right now, go in and see how you're doing against those security benchmark, and also have the ability for you to start using it now to build your security framework, so that when you start migrating or using more resources in there, you have that capability. It's already in place and set.
Thanks, Jhonny. I didn't realize I was on mute, but yes, please reach out to me if you need an Azure Defender POC. Be happy to help. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I don't see any more questions, so Tony,